Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to today's quick stream where instead of writing a paper, I am uh, doing just a little gander. Uh, I would definitely uh, plug my Substack post where I talked about various complex adaptive systems such as financial markets, right? Complex adaptive system, lots of participants whose inputs affects the outputs, which then affects future inputs, and on it goes. And the same exists for sports betting. And of course, as I made in that Substack post and then the stream, sports betting is in the U.S. is very unfriendly from a tax perspective. So as you can see, right, not logged in. So it's just, but the odds do because if anybody's going to know more about the outcome of a game, it's probably going to be um like the odds makers and those dedicated uh sports analytics data providers. And so, why not take their inputs that are available for free and just, take a look at what the market is saying about various events and toss in a little, um, personal opinion and discussion. Uh, and so, personally, I think not necessarily for odds. Of course, when it comes to odds, you should shop around. You should shop around FanDuel, DraftKings, MGM, Caesars, the big four US sports books, and you should like for each event just double check to make sure that you're getting the best odds because not all of the books are equal. Like anecdotally, like Caesars tends to be not as much. Caesars doesn't offer as many like side events. But anyways, and plus MGM I think has a really nice user interface with this on your sidebar, which is very nice compared to others. Right, like this isn't as usable, but this is right having like the specific events, is very nice. And I'm just gonna go through a couple leagues. I shouldn't put off the essay too much. Um, so this is of course the AFC Champions League, just because it's what I had on. Of course, the AFC Champions League, right? It's Mondays and Tuesdays. Of course, if it's East and West conferences. It's definitely too interesting. I mean, Al Nasser, Persepolis, maybe Persepolis at 10 odds is a bit unfair. Maybe look at like a draw no bet, 8.25. Of course, FanDuel. FanDuel seems to be the most generous when it comes to draw no bets, having higher odds. But maybe we could take a look. Of course, Persepolis, like a you know, decent Persian side. Of course, Al Nasser, um, one of the bigger Saudi sides. It does seem that all of the Saudi clubs have a lot of international players. Do seem to have a lot of injuries. Like Al Ittihad has a pretty big injury list. So, no, it's maybe like a flyer on that might be interesting, but wouldn't really have too high conviction because it is Mr. Champions League, and also they do seem yeah, at the very least defensively solid, which is important, especially in knockout football. Kawasaki, Johor. I mean, Johor, Indonesia champions. Maybe surprisingly good team. You have been. I beat the a team from Korea. I think like Ulsan. It's a bit underrated. Mumbai, Al Ain. Yeah, like Tashkent are sneakily good. Al Hilal seems to always get very low odds. I mean, because they are a good team. Yeah, it's not too much going on in AFC. Let's check out Argentina. Yeah, certainly don't follow Argentinian football too much. I was just saying generally when I Like say an event like this, like Banfield versus Gimnasia when I see an event like that, my eyes perk up, right? Because to me, these seem to be relatively equal teams, but yet one team is priced at 2, and the other team is priced at 4.2. Like, like just as like a way to like catch the eye out of all the events that are going on, right? That's something that would spark my interest. Um, it's something like you in the Santa Fe versus a Tigre. This is another thing that would uh, catch my interest. Yeah, I think this one certainly. Of course, the other straight like the league is in its early innings, so of course like your the volume of data that you have to go off is a bit more limited. This website, Footy Stats, is like FootMob. I think has a very nice UI and very pleasant, but uh, like Footy Stats does a bit more in depth, which is helpful. Yeah, and again, right, as long as like you size your bets appropriately, you know. Again, if this was a live example, I'm sure we could talk about it, but the big thing, right, is the big thing is you shouldn't be betting in the first place if you're in the U.S. The way the tax is structured. Algeria, personally, I don't know too much about Algerian football, or haven't looked at too much, but yeah, not too much. I don't know. Maybe if there's that much of maybe that's a bit some value right there. Australia, Melbourne in the AFC Champions League, um, and not too much to say there. Austria, LSK, Europe, Salzburg, pretty consistent champions. Sturm Graz. Again, like maybe like this, like Rep VN versus Blau Weiss might be interesting. I mean, if it's pricing at 6.75, right? Take yourself a draw no bet for 5.25. You keep yourself for a tie. You know, uh, it's that's something that would again, right, do more research, right, actually do a bit more um analysis of like fixture congestion, injuries. But again, right, as long as you're like as long as you size your bets appropriately, and again, right, assuming that you're in a tax jurisdiction where uh, it's more favorable or not as punitive and regressive, then like something like this would be an event that would interest me. Because again, I've made a point in my Substack, but the like at least for me, like the most attractive and the most satisfying bet. Again, it's not so much you're not you probably shouldn't be in the business of trying to predict outcomes because if you think about it, the sports books aren't really in the or they are, but they're not like it's not the sports books' jobs to really predict the outcome of games explicitly. And so I think from the better perspective, it's much more satisfying. I think it's much more uh, not necessarily EV positive, expected value positive bets, but it gets you closer to that goal of expected value bets. It's not so much predict what team is going to win as much as what are the odds the market is giving you. Again, sports betting uh, is a complex adaptive system, as I've explained in the past. And again, like 2 days ago in that previous video. So if I see something like this, right? So again, maybe like again, so and I think like the easiest conception of where those odds have that asymmetric perspective is you can think about, well, what are like just from your perspective, right? Because this is decimal, right? These are decimal odds. So it's not American, which is very silly in my view to use American odds. And I'm not, but decimal odds, right? You can just do 1 divided by the number. That's the percent of winning. So 1 divided by 1.4 gets you 71. Right. So that's pricing it that Rapid Wien has a 71% chance to win, and Blau-Weiß, that nice Ronaldo wallpaper, has a 15% chance to win. And now, personally, again, I'm not saying I don't really I don't follow Austrian football too exclusively beyond some of the derbies, um, but again, right? So Rapid Wien, 71%. Again, the market is pricing it at 71% chance. For, again, loosely speaking, it's not necessarily the actual implied odds, but the implied odds are 71%, 15%, and 20%, right? And so if you do a drawn up bet, like this, and like I mean, there's decent value in a drawn up bet. You're only losing 1.5 turns uh, of your bet, right? So you, so just like so you capture a tie, you capture and the straight money line. But again, right? So if you think that it should be a 50-50 game, right? Like this team has a 50 chance of winning, this team has a 50 chance of winning. It was like 30, 20, 30, or whatnot, 30, 40, 30, or whatever. Then, well, you have your implied odds. So if you think the outcome is like 50-50, so it should be like 2 and 2, but yet here I see it's 1.4 and 2 to 6.75. And so somewhere in those dispersions is value, quote unquote. And I think bets like these, uh, no, I'm a sucker for that. And again, maybe you know, first tier Austrian football is not the best example, but conceptually, at least that's my conception of value betting is, and it's the most like intuitive one. I think it's one that's it's pretty easy and it's not overly sophisticated because again, you're not really underwriting the winner so much, but the market, but you're simply taking what the market's giving you and you're not arbitraging it because you're not necessarily getting the outcome, but you are taking odds that the market arguably shouldn't be so generous in pricing. Uh, right. Just like a value stock, right? Like if the again, value stocks can often be value traps, and so this could of course potentially be. And again, right, we're not doing the most extensive analysis, but just conceptually, right? Um, so I suppose yeah, this would be one that would interest me. I suppose yeah, I'm not keeping tally, but just walking down the line. Second tier Austria football. Interesting why these two teams are priced so close, or relatively close, given the I suppose Liefering might be like a defensive record or something. An event like this, 4 and 10 versus 6, 4 and 4 to be priced at 2.05. That interests me. Right, playing bottom of the league, and of course, right, everything right is like of course data is a bit more scarce, so of course it's a bit tough to see if there's injury crisis with first Vienna, uh, and then right that favors you if you speak German or can read it and read some like local news source. So yeah, so personally, definitely one thing I wish I did more in high school was follow more esoteric football leagues. 'Cause I think certainly that is a benefit, right? Like if the Premier League is probably one more followed and like tightly and accurately marked betting markets out there, right? But you move to second tier Austrian football, and all of a sudden you're probably in the less fished waters. Personally, I personally I'm very distrustful of Belgian football. It's a very poor experience with Belgian football. Not only it's a bit annoying how Challenger, the second tier, comes before the first tier, which cost me a couple clicks. Um, Charleroi, Westerlo might be seems nominally maybe Eupen for that much of a right odds dispersion, lesser degree, right? Real Antwerp, maybe real Antwerp. I mean, as we do know the lineups if it's within the hour, but maybe roll Antwerp, rotating for the upcoming Champions League. It's like do or die for them to try to sneak into Europa against Shakhtar. Against Union, again, right, both teams not the most convincing. Second tier. But this is what I mean, right? Like here's like two nominally relatively comparable teams, right? And they're priced fairly equally. But then we contrast that to what we saw here, where the dispersion. Where's that event? The dispersion here is so significant, right? So that's kind of what I mean. It's like what's and again, right? The bookies are smarter than me, so they're probably pricing in something that I'm not. But again, like it's just like how like your platonic norm is, and then you can see right like what your potential dispersions are, and it's those dispersions right that can create uh, the at least the impression of a value bet, quote unquote. Pretty cool team names. The strongest, always ready. Siempre, uh, sempre. Brazil, Brazil, Brazilian football. Yeah, what a wonderful thing. What a hilarious, wonderful thing. Personally, my favorite. Again, back when I did bet, again, it's I've stopped. I'll have to bite the bullet on taxes. But what I think one of the favorite things, at least most memorable, is of course Fluminense won the Copa Libertadores. Um, I think it was like Flamengo or somebody playing them like 2 or 3 days after. It's like like I think the odds were priced such that like Flamengo or Fluminense was the favorite. But of course, like well, you just won the Copa America and you're not competing for the title, Fluminense or Fluminense, however you word. It's Portuguese, so maybe Fluminense. Um, yeah, Fluminense maybe. Yeah, NC ish. So yeah, it's kind of like, well, you're not really the favorites probably if you're not really competing for a title and you just won what you were competing for this season in the continental competition. So that's one like I'm most memorable of. Of course, yeah, Flamengo has pretty nice outfit kits. Vasco da Gama. If the way Botafogo have been collapsing, would you really? Another Red Bull team, always fun to see. Oh. Yeah, this is another event that would like Vitoria. Yeah, I suppose like the ties and potentially is the more likely outcome that the bookies are trying to trick trap you into, right? Um, uh, yeah, it's always the ties, right? And so conceptually, like at least like like, again, especially if like you're the end goal is to preserve capital, right? Same as in financial markets. If the goal is to preserve capital, then it's probably a bit safer, generally speaking, to at least hedge your bet to the degree that you can by taking off the risk of a tie being the deal breaker. An event like this, right? Gremio, second division versus these fellows again. Might seems like an event that would pique my interest to do more research on. So again, like this team, Guarani and Denor versus Goianench might be one that interests me. I will say another nice thing about betting. Again, it's like second tier Brazilian football. So it's like how much would you normally really encounter this? But it is fun. Like, at the very least, like geography um is fun. Like knowing where like Guarani is, knowing where like various like European teams are, right? Because if it's European football, it'll tend to a lot of fallen giants, and so you'll tend to find clubs of that are from in former industrial cities that, of course, have been somewhat hollowed out. It's aren't necessarily like the Paris or like the Berlins of the world. Lokomotiv versus Botev, and that might, yeah, I mean that one of the big Bulgarian. Again, Bulgarian football is pretty top heavy, right? Like CSK, or Sofia Ludogorets versus the rest. So I mean, something like that, might be a bit intriguing. It's like just like a yield, but this one, yeah, I mean, pretty wide dispersion. Again, maybe that's warranted. But yeah, here's if I to agree, like Ludogorets is such a favorite in Bulgarian football. Chile, I haven't really had too much about Chilean football. Of course, China, a lot of the Asian leagues, right, have wrapped up their seasons, like China, Korea, Japan. FA Cup, like Shandong Taishan has been like four straight FA Cup finals, which is pretty impressive for a cup competition. And not like Shandong or like domestic titans. Like, I mean, they are like like a top four side, but right, competing in the AFC Champions League. But so kudos. I will say the nice thing about Asian leagues, like the results do happen like the very early mornings. So it is always a nice premonition of voice activity, and also, I mean, it's like at least a top tier. It is a good amount of variance. So it's to the again to the strategy of taking the 50/50s, but the events is priced at like 2080 is and Chinese football anecdotally it seems pretty well placed for that. Like it was like Shanghai Port versus Beijing Guoan. Like Guoan was priced at like 7 versus Shanghai Port at like 1.4 or something. That seems to be a pretty wide dispersion, and but of course, right, you have to have conviction to, of course, allocate uh, or size your bet to that. Cyprus, of course, Limassol in European football. But yeah, not really seeing any like there's not really so much value here. I mean, if you want to be aggressive with it, but again, right, you have so many different leagues that are available to you, right? And in all of these leagues, right, we're seeing like somewhat questionable value bets. So it's kind of like, well, how much do you really have to put at risk, right? Um, Czech football. Yeah, nothing really stands out too much. Again, maybe something like this. But again, right, like seems like defensively pretty sound. So maybe like the tie, draw no bet. Danish. FC Copenhagen prices high. Probably to some degree because of the upcoming Champions League this week, right? Uh, Same logic goes for Norsey, Norsey Island. Maybe again, right? Like European football on like Thursday. So maybe AGF. something like this, yeah, it's always a bit of a trap, right? Like a team having 0 wins, that's kind of like a nice big flashy headline, but I mean, clearly with like Lyon in French football, bit of a bit of a trap. City Liverpool. Now I believe Liverpool was priced at like closer to like 4.75 last week, so I mean, clearly like the odds have tightened a bit, which kind of implies that if you took the bet at like 4.75, the odds have moved in your favor, or like you were getting better odds than the book wants you to have. Bournemouth Sheffield. I feel like you know Sheffield Bournemouth. Like Bournemouth's probably a bit performance or like win column. It doesn't really reflect the quality of the squad. Yeah, same thing for like West Ham versus Burnley. To me, that this is somewhat standing out. Uh, same with Crystal Palace, right? But again, these again to the degree like value traps exist. Chelsea, Newcastle, I mean the attrition Newcastle. I suppose their injury situation might have improved a bit. Yeah, still missing Burn, suspended. Oh, it seems like I guess injury situations, but yeah, like this one, two, three, four. To the degree that like just like Newcastle. And Newcastle are also competing in European football. It's like you got Newcastle just like very beaten up from a squad attrition perspective. Brentford are a bit of like a nice little like bogey team. If the odds are quite high, like if it's like the draw no bets like at 5 or above, and they're a tempting team to always have a flyer on. Spurs, Villa. I mean Villa, much stronger at home. Um, again, like Tottenham injury situation, you know. But then you get to events like Everton, Man United, and it's kind of like I definitely understand why Everton is priced this tight. I probably agrees with that, but that's like how much you really want to. And again, it's always it's like you want to put like like a dollar 50 cents on event, just like have another entry in your spreadsheet. That's always fine. Burnley, Sheffield. This is an interesting one. It's pricing Burnley at home, but that could be an interesting. But again, right, the odds aren't. I mean, they're separate. Like what, 50% versus um like 28, 29%. This game's yeah, not sure what to make of it. Right, two teams have like various injury issues, and of course United have the biggest struggles. Chelsea, Brighton. You can make the case both ways, but maybe Brighton just because it's from the odds, right? Again, it's not predicting what the event is, but it's just taking what the odds are giving you. And of course, nice thing like the more like efficient sports markets, right? Like you do get more forward looks at upcoming events, which is always nice. Um, what a nice 13-3, zero draws. So Leicester money line people until recently could be pretty pleased. Maybe Birmingham, of course, under Bruni, not the most impressive. Yeah, it's not too much wide dispersions in English football. Yeah, I don't really mess with that far down the table. Continental football, Lazio, Celtic. And I mean, of course, Celtic decided to draw Atleti with a couple lucky goals against the run of play. Right. Again, this is what like football, like very nice visualizations. Uh, right. like this goal kind of, yeah. I mean, good for Palma. Again, right, Shakhtar, Antwerp. Actually, I guess it doesn't matter for Antwerp. It's very unlikely that, that Shakhtar's on 6. Yeah, it's very unlikely that Antwerp will sneak in. PSG versus Newcastle. I mean, you have to favor PSG at home. But again, right? I mean, what 20% chance versus like 60. Again, City Leipzig. It's a bit of a cliche to pick Leipzig as given how inconsistent they are. But I mean they can beat up Red Star Belgrade all they want. Milan Dortmund, right? Must win for Milan. Barca Porto. I mean this one I'd be tempted for Porto. That's because of how disappointingly bad Barca are, and how yeah, well not bad, but it's how disappointing they are. Like the style of football is very unconvincing. I mean, of course, same for Porto, but I mean, Porto were unlucky to lose to Barca in the first encounter. It's like I mean, draw no bet with Porto takes like 5 odds. Would be tempting. Feyenoord Atleti, interesting. Again, like how much do you rate the home form? West Feyenoord have a pretty iconic stadium atmosphere. Young boys, Red Star, must-win game for both. So of course the joke goes the outcome's going to be a tie. Sounds their value. Galatasaray versus United. Very nicely, like the Galatasaray odds go from like 3.5 and move their way down as injuries happen to United. Sevilla, PSV, must-win game for both. Stay in uh, their group. But again, right, price like 50-50. Bayern Copenhagen. Yeah, like it's very tempting to bet against Bayern's to draw no bet against Bayern because of how under Tuchel, they always have a bit of a disaster. You feel like in them, but hasn't happened yet. Arsenal, Len, yeah, I don't. Oh, I mean, at first leg though, I'm sure took hurt a lot of people. Braga, Union, what a nice Braga, very very unlucky to lose to Madrid in their first encounter. Braga should arguably be like 2-1 or like 2-1-1 with a tie. Benfica, Inter. Interesting that Benfica are priced. It's literally priced at 50-50. Of course, Inter have clinched their advance. And of course, Inter are playing Juventus, the old lady, this weekend. So how much rotation is going to be happening. But yeah, I'm not sure how people predicted, but us was a lot of squad turnover. Madrid, Napoli, of course, both teams. I mean, Napoli, new manager, and Madrid, some injuries up front. Some maybe Napoli. Sociedad, Salzburg, again, right? Sociedad basically clinched their advance, but of course, right? Salzburg can be motivated to try to secure Europa League, and of course, right? Sociedad, not the biggest squad. Europa League. Maybe something Atalanta Sporting might be interesting. Of course, AEK beat Brighton, and AEK was, of course, away, but was priced like 13 odds, which is quite something. Marseille, Ajax, maybe. I mean, Ajax is at the Metrodome. Um, of course, I mean, Ajax are have improved their form recently, but I mean, but Marseille are also with Gattuso, so Rangers, bit of an annoying team. Um, not only because of their like implied club motivations, but also um, they failed to beat Limassol in the reverse fixture. So, bit of a bogey. Liverpool, LASK. Of course, Liverpool dropped to Toulouse, but how much he really wants to underwrite that. And plus, Toulouse was priced at 6. And of course, they were at home, which just shows the bookies weren't giving too much of a leg. Molde, Karabakh. Yeah, I can't really disagree with that. Yeah, I'm probably gonna skip the pace. I'm not gonna go through all the leagues as it was at the top, but yeah, I hope to make this like a relatively consistent thing because it is fun. I do think it is therapeutic because it is again the same way. Let's think it's interesting to look at how like the market's pricing different securities. It's fun. Likewise, it's fun to see how the market is pricing certain sporting events because right, I'm not looking at. I don't really have much of an interest in like MMA, so I'm not looking at uh, MMA odds my free time. But it's fun to see like what the market's predicting. For a game I'm gonna watch, if not follow. Um, so it's and of course again there is no financial metric again because the U.S. tax code is very unfair. Write your Congress people about it. Um, but so yeah, I mean it is a bit therapeutic. Put on a nice couple of bangers that I haven't listened to in a year. It's like look at what the market's pricing. Do it weekly. For the matches that are coming in the week ahead. You know, do it on a Friday night, the Saturday after the bookies have priced the odds for the upcoming week. It's very therapeutic in my view. Again, learn some geography, right? Like guess where these guys are from? Faroe Islands. And guess what these guys did? They beat a team from Bulgaria, much to my chagrin. Victoria Pilsen, interesting. Again, right? Maybe Pilsen have priced in or advance. Helsinki, Aberdeen, Besiktas. Again, it looks like Besiktas, very disappointing this season. But they're facing Club Brugge, and I just really distrust Belgian football teams. So make of that what you will. I mean, PAOK, Frankfurt again, right? But you're only pricing at 4.75. In other events, right, you're getting like 6 implied odds. So it's uh, always a bit. Nords versus Fenerbahce. Again, right, when the odds are this tight, like it ends up you're actually predicting what team is actually going to win, and at that point, right, you at least I am just a bit more skeptical of my own abilities. PSJ, Monaco. Again, maybe Monaco is a bit interesting, but again, right, two rivals. Ren versus Rem. Yeah, it might be interesting, given the. But again, right, it seems like pretty defensively solid. And of course, Lyon and Lille. Of course, Lyon, such a fun little punching bag this season, which is a bit unfortunate. But again, maybe there's a bit of a interest with Lille. German football. If it's not Schalke, I want nothing to do with it. Um, right, Wolfsburg, bit of an interesting team. Same with Union's downfall this season. Where's Hoffenheim? Interesting team. But man, last season Union must have been such a pain to the bookies last season. Second tier German football. Whereas Hertha Berlin is clearly like not the favorites. St. Pauli, Schalke. Always fun to bet on. Always fun to bet against Schalke at home to just keep on. Uh, of course Schalke have run into some hard times. Was always a bit fun. Right, yeah, Schalke. Yeah, I guess it's a bit hard to battle. It was Osnabrück, but always a bit fun, tempting. Greece, of course, Olympiacos, PAOK, AEK Athens, Panathinaikos. Not too much value comes to mind. Hungary, Puskas, Ferencvaros. Yeah, maybe. Italy, Lazio. I mean, 60%. Again, right, Atalanta, Napoli, right price vary 50-50. Maybe you favor Napoli. Milan, Fiorentina. Yeah, it's very. I mean, as a Milanista, Rossoneri, Sarah Porche, Tiamo. It is a bit tough to have too much confidence in Milan, where the expectations on them to be the proactive team. Frosinone, a bit of a hard team for me to wrap my head around. It was a newly promoted team, but of course, right, a lot of their historical stats are not so useful from last season because of how much turnover in the squad there was with the promotion. Roma, what a wonderful bogey team for me, right? Get slapped by Slavia Prague, but then come back in like 5 minutes to beat Lecce. Inter, Juve, it's kind of hard to bet against Inter, but then again, Juve and their football terrorism under Allegri is I mean that should be it's probably gonna be like a fun game. It's gonna be like against Juventus. It's gonna be like a slower pace game, but I mean, it should definitely be put on the second half where things have to speed up a bit. Should be interesting. I mean, again, like Juve against like Monza, right? Like to be priced at only 50, like 45%. So that's something about Juve's troubles. Same for like Roma, right? But Inter at 2.5, it's kind of tempting to push around Napoli in the Estadio Maradona. Yeah, Sampdoria again, right? 7 ties. It's like Venezia, of course, right? Famous banger jerseys might be a bit interesting. Como, yeah, not sure if there's um something like this, maybe interesting. Oh, I didn't realize Japan was still going. Maybe like Red, of course, Red Diamonds, right? AFC Champions League team. Not the best campaign so far. Lost like Jeonbuk in Korea and like Wuhan Three Towns. Oh, maybe I was wrong about these guys being done for. Again, Netherlands also a bit of like a bogey league for me. Suspended. I'm guessing somebody threw stuff on the pitch, do some nice flares. Um, the tough thing about second tier Dutch football is because all like your young teams, all of like your youth teams, or second like your youth teams that show up, which makes it a bit tougher to underwrite. Of course, right. Dutch league is pretty top heavy with Feyenoord, uh, Alkmaar, somebody else. Of course, there's Ajax. Oh, and Eindhoven. Ajax are back, baby, being strong favorites. Oh no, but again, it might be a bit amusing. right? But teams like like Alkmaar 1.16 or 16, PSV. I guess that's not the best example. Like Feyenoord, right? Like you get right like you can get very wide odds dispersions. But again, it's kind of hard to argue against it, right? Just because of the disparity in teams. Molde, right? Very 50-50. Bodo Glimt, push from Besiktas. Portugal. Romania, of course, you got your couple of Cluj teams. Yeah, Scotland very very top heavy, right? Celtic and Rangers, pretty top heavy. Oh, this went on a bit longer than I expected, but again, Barca. So, oh my gosh, I mean, Barca not convincing, right? So I mean, it's always a bit tough to bet against Barca. We'll do like a draw no bet. Always a temptation. Yeah, La Liga this season, a bit tough to underwrite with like how Sevilla and Villarreal have struggled this season. It's always a bit tougher to underwrite. Second tier, um, where is Espanyol? Espanyol has given me some trust issues, so it's a bit tough to have too much confidence in those fellas. Um, Legans, Leganese, I do have confidence in those guys. Switzerland, I really do not trust Switzerland, uh, Swiss football. Ukraine, I mean Ukraine, I mean anecdotally, Ukraine has had some person like does have some pretty wide odd dispersion. Uh, like Kiev versus Lviv, an event like this, tempting, like interesting. MLS, and I don't touch MLS, but so that's a lot. I need to get back to writing my essay, um, but again, right. So again, like, right. Again, first of all, write your congressman, right? Because the U.S. tax treatment of betting is different from the rest of the world, basically, and it's extremely unfair. But secondly, right, complex adaptive system. It's just appreciating what the market's pricing, and just implicitly, right? Like you're thinking, like, well, do you agree? And like, so it's fun. Get to learn some geography along the way. So again, right, you don't have to make an account. You can just like go on the website, just like look at. Or again, if like, what if you're like a NBA person, right? But again, right, as you see with the NBA odds, right, way more tight than in soccer. NFL way more tight than soccer. But but yeah, so pick your poison. But yeah, thanks for watching.